Hi, I'm Aaron Yeager, Executive Director of No Personal Finance. We are a nonprofit that I founded in Harlem 2 years ago, and I founded it at a rec center near, right, a block from where I live, and I founded it because I had an idea. I had been in debt for like a decade, and I felt a lot of guilt because of it and shame. And that day, like a couple days ago, before I founded it, I had an idea for a way to save money. I'm not going to get into it during this video, but suffice it to say, I had an idea. I thought that, why don't I teach a class as a volunteer at the rec center? Because I love the rec center. It's called Jackie Robinson Recreation Center. It's in Central Harlem, and they're much more than just like a rec center. Like, they have a computer lab, arts and crafts for kids, 2 gyms. Like, they're a huge pool in the back. Like, it's a huge institution in the community. So that is a place I love. And I went up to the manager. I just walked in and I was like, can I teach a class as a volunteer on financial literacy? And to give some background, I was not trained as a financial literacy in any way. I have worked in financial services for my whole career at banks, but just as a website project manager, I wasn't completely knowledgeable about every aspect of it. But I think he saw how passionate I was about it, and he said, yes, but you need to, before I'll say yes, you need to get certified in personal finance, just get a certification, and then make a syllabus for the class and bring it here, and I will take a look and we'll go from there. So I said, okay. And then I researched certifications. I found one from an organization called WISE, Working in Support of Education, and it's based in New York. And it was a very simple process. They just said I had to study for a test. Didn't have to go to classes, or I didn't have to, and they sent me a study guide. So I studied for 2 weeks, and I took the test and got a passing grade my first time. And that was my certification as a personal finance educator. And mind you, I think the main way that I learned about personal finance is by going on Reddit. There's a subreddit called, it's reddit.com/r/personal finance. And it's the most valuable place I found with information about personal finance. It has one page especially that's helpful. It's a resources page. I can't remember the URL or the page name at the moment, but what it has is a step-by-step process for sorting out your personal finances. So, for example, step 0 is creating a budget. And then step 1 might be pay off your high interest debt, i.e. pay off your credit card debt. And then maybe step 2 is pay off your low interest debt. So you can see there was 6 steps in the whole process, and it was a very short, concise explanation. And it was so valuable to me because it just gave me a basic structure to learn everything about personal finance. And then in addition, I would go to that subreddit every day for at least a couple minutes and take a look at some of the threads. Because what it was mostly is people would ask questions about advice about, for example, identity theft, or they got an inheritance, stuff it's kind of, a lot of it was very specialized and not really common, but it was good information and very helpful. So I'm a self-taught person, and that got me to the point where I could advise people pretty well, at least on the practical aspects of personal finance. So that's that. Another aspect of what we do is called business counseling. And I want to back up a second. So our programs as a nonprofit, the only program we have right now is called financial counseling. So what that is we meet with clients or, who we're serving once a week. And it's a meeting that I like to call, it's like therapy, but it's about your financial situation. So it's called, I say therapy because we try to take a look at the underpinnings, the reasons why we get into debt and other, bad financial situations. Because a lot of times, I like to think that money is primarily, like getting in debt is primarily driven by your emotions and how you're feeling. Like, for example, if you were someone who bought things from Amazon compulsively, maybe it's because you're alone and you find that to be an outlet, and you like just getting something in the mail every day. It's like something to look forward to. So that's what we try to talk about. In addition to, I ask the clients, like, what do you want to accomplish? How can I help you? So they tell me during that initial consultation, and then I develop a plan for, what we'll accomplish every week and what the ultimate goal is for them. I'm going to back up again and say that as a nonprofit, we strongly identify with the Harlem community. I moved to Harlem in 2017, and I loved it from right off the bat. When I got off the subway, I was like, this is going to be a good place, because I saw the architecture right outside of the subway stop, and it actually made me think of a movie called The Royal Tenenbaums by Wes Anderson. And because the house is the main feature in that movie, I'll try not to get into it too much, but suffice it to say, I'm like, maybe the house is near here, because I knew that it was based in Harlem, and it turns out it was like 2 or 3 blocks away. So I thought that was so cool. But anyway, so I got off the subway stop. I walked to the apartment that I was looking at, and I walked around the corner and down the hill to a park. It's called Jackie Robinson Park. It's like I say it's a baby park. It has a front part, and then there's the rec center right in the middle of it, the Jackie Robinson Rec Center, and then behind it is Moore Park. So I walked down the steps, and I was just like, this is really good. I saw there's like a gigantic pool right next to the Jackie Robinson Rec Center. It spans like the entire length of it, and I'm like, this feels like a real family-oriented area, like a very community-oriented area. So I kept walking. I walked over to the apartment building, and I just saw it's just a beautiful area. There's a lot of variety in the layout, but I got the apartment, and I've lived there, of course, for 3 years, and I loved it. So that's partly why we are, strongly a Harlem organization. The other part is our target audience is people of color and people who have a low income, because both of these people, I think, society discriminates against them in general, but also especially in the realm of money. Like, for example, we do business counseling, I said earlier, but it's extremely hard for people of color to get loans from banks because they're just racist. They don't want to loan money. And it's been like that's been a thing since the beginning, and it still is. So that's one reason why they're like a target audience. And also because, people of color are vastly the majority. They make up the majority of Harlem. So it goes back to our identity. And then, the low income aspect, a good portion of Harlem is also low income, about a quarter of people who live there. And a lot of the focus of what we do with both personal finance and business finance is just, helping people start out. Like, for example, with one client, I just helped her, she was already budgeting, so she was good there, but like she was unemployed, so I helped her work on her resume, apply for jobs. It's just like the basics. But I found that once you help people with that stuff and you feel like you're at a stopping point with them and they kind of go off and you don't meet with them anymore, they feel like, for example, that client, I stopped seeing her, and then she texted me 3 months later and she's like, I need help with graphic design. Do you do that? At the time I said no, but I said, do you want to meet? And she said yes. So we met at the rec center, and she said, I started a business. And I'm like, what business? She said, I'm making religious t-shirts. And I was like, that's cool. And she's like, I'm making a lot of money. And I'm like, awesome. So I felt that while I didn't counsel her in business before she opened the business, I think I gave her the confidence to do it, to show her, she was capable of a lot of things. For one thing, in her career before she was laid off, she was a bookkeeper, so she knew her stuff when it came to money. But just like with banks loaning money to people of color, she was a person of color, and I think she felt discouraged. So that's just an example. I want to backtrack a bit though, to my class, so I'll tell you more about how that progressed. So I had my first class at the rec center in the library, which is like a little room with some books and like a conference table. And I borrowed a projector screen from the office where the manager sat, and a projector, and I hooked my laptop up. I had made a PowerPoint presentation with some slides on budgeting and just an overview of what we were going to learn. So I was all excited, hooked up my laptop to that, but nobody came for that first session. I had, advertised on Facebook and posted about it a lot, and probably 11 people had RSVP'd. Nobody showed up. So after that, I, printed out flyers, sat at a table in the rec center, just distributing them to a lot of people, and also posted them everywhere in the rec center, because it was like, at that point, it was an officially sponsored thing. But I think it was like the second or third sessions, finally someone came. They saw the flyers, and it was actually that client I had described earlier who started a t-shirt business. The class was 10 weeks long. She came to every single class. It was like early evening. And also she had 3 kids who always were with her and not always, able to be entertained. So they would wait outside of the room. They were like preteens, and they would just get restless. Sometimes she'd go outside and just kind of like say, quiet down. But she came also in the middle of winter, because I was teaching it. It started on October 3rd, and then it ended at the end of December. She came in the middle of winter with these 3 kids to every session. And looking back at it, I hadn't realized how devoted she was. So that gave me a lot of hope, and it gave me validation that what I was doing was good, and that it was something that people needed, a lot. Another thing that had given me validation is right after the first class, one of the people who worked at the rec center came up to me and said, like, I was all dejected because nobody had come to the class, and he said, keep doing what you're doing because what you're doing is a good thing. And that was something that I needed right then. Because he saw what I was doing. He saw me. He saw that I cared a lot about what I was doing. So that was partly what kept me going, in that first couple classes. Just as a side note, so a while later he became a client because he wanted to start a barbershop. And I worked on it with him, and I made a financial forecast for him, like a spreadsheet with like lots of stuff, like it estimated the loan he'd need and everything. And we looked over it. I remember like the last time I met with him, and he's like, this is A1. And I tell people, I'm like, that is one of the best things that anybody's ever said to me. I don't know why. It's just like, because I poured so much energy into that. Like, I wrote him a business plan too, and it took me probably a month to do both of those, and it was just nice. Like, I feel like that guy, he could just see people, and it felt good. So, yeah, back to the class though. I had about 3 lectures that I did, so like 3 weeks of lecture, and then I showed like a video on this woman who had come from poverty. She was a woman of color and had risen. She's like the head of a hedge fund now, and it was a really good video, and I think it was that client's favorite class session because she was like also very charismatic and relatable in the way she talked. It was like a TED Talk. Melody Hobson is her name. So that was it changed, the class changed in format a bit. And then after it was over, I switched to personal finance counseling because I got like 3 students total. Like eventually some more people attended. And I found that they didn't want to talk during the class because nobody wants to talk about their financial situation with strangers there, which is completely understandable. So I decided to start doing one-on-one counseling. Like, one of the students suggested it, and I said yes. Both because it made sense, and because I find that in my relationships with like everyone, I act in the role of the therapist. Like, I listen, and I kind of try to say, like, I kind of deconstruct what they're saying in terms of how they're feeling. So that's like that's part of the reason why I like doing financial counseling, having that format. So yeah, we've had probably at least 14 clients, but definitely more than that, probably around like 18 since 2018. And we've helped a lot of people, and I really have found the thing I want to do in life. Like, I can't express how happy I was when I figured it out. So here we are. Yeah, we're doing really well, and actually 2 weeks ago, almost to the day today, yesterday was my last day at my 9-to-5 job. I worked at a financial services company, as I said, like a web project manager. I quit both because of the intensity of the coronavirus. It had made my mental health very bad, my like anxiety attacks and all that. Also because I really wanted to make KPF, no personal finance, into an actual, like I say, an actual thing, like, an actual business. So I decided that's how people do it. They devote everything to it. So I quit. I cashed out my retirement accounts, and I'm gonna live for about a year on that and just try to make no personal finance profitable. But it's a long shot, but I'm gonna do my best. Yeah, so that's basically an overview of us and myself. I also the organization has a board. So check out our website. You can learn more. And thank you. Stay tuned for more videos. See ya.